Welcome back to another episode of Reflect Live, the podcast where stories come to life and hearts are opened. I'm your host, Michelle. Here in Reflect Live, we offer a platform for people from all walks of life to share their experiences, their triumphs, and their challenges. It's a space where people thrive and connections are made through the power of storytelling. And today we have something truly special in store for you. So grab your favorite beverage, find a cozy spot, and let's dive into another episode of Reflect Live. Get ready to be inspired, moved, and maybe even crack a smile or two. This is Reflect Live with Michelle.
Can you share with us a bit about your journey in the entertainment industry and how you navigated between being a multi-talented performer?
Sure. Well, I started doing training when I was 16. I went to an all-girl private school, and they didn't really have any drama or music that was musical theatre. It was kind of a lot of writing music or Shakespeare, and it wasn't really too much what I was interested in doing. I wanted to do musical theatre things and just more up-to-date kind of stuff. So I left high school at 16, which is when you leave in England. It's different to America. You leave high school at 16, and then I went to a college that provided a musical theatre program for 2 years. And as soon as I started that, and I knew that I could do this instead of biology or chemistry or that kind of thing, I got to do that all day, every day. I fell in love with it, and that was decision made. This is what I'm going to do. And I went on to train for 4 years at different universities, theatre schools. And once I graduated, we had an agent showcase. So we got to perform in front of agents. We had actually 3 weeks at the end of our last year where we got to meet a different agent every day and perform in front of them. So it was 15 days of going, singing a song, doing a little monologue, maybe doing a dance for them, and meeting all these agents, which was such a good opportunity. And I signed with my agent in the UK, loved them. And as soon as I graduated, got my first couple of auditions and got my first job on Royal Caribbean cruises. I did Saturday Night Fever, and I played Annette, and it was so much fun. Absolutely loved it. First job out of theatre school, and I got to go and travel the world for a year, and it was just
that crazy. So, let's look at that Saturday Night Fever reel I have really quick.
Yeah, sure.
Add it. There we go.
Oh, it feels like so long
That's
ago.
Fun. So that was on a cruise ship?
Yeah, that was on Liberty of the Seas with Royal Caribbean. So I did that in 2019 for a year. It was so much fun. I had the best time. Then started auditioning again when I came back, and then COVID happened, and everything kind of shut down after that. And I carried on. We had about a couple of months of COVID, and it was May 2020, and I heard about this new musical in America, this off-Broadway show, Mike and Mindy's Wild Weekend Jam. And I heard about it through my boyfriend at the time. He was playing Mike, and he'd done it for a couple of years at the time. And they were developing it, trying to get it to be this first version of the musical, first fully fledged, right? That's how you say it, version of the musical. And they were looking for a Mindy at the time. And I didn't know the team yet, and Austin had just introduced me to the team as this is my new girlfriend from the boat, and here's her website and that kind of stuff. Nothing to do with the show. He was just wanted to introduce me because he's good friends with Eileen and Mark and Peggy and everybody. And then about a month later, they emailed me without telling him, and they were saying, we've looked at your stuff, we've looked at your videos and things like that, and we just wanted to ask if maybe you would consider auditioning for Mindy in our show. And they were we haven't told Austin, so we just wanted to ask you before, because we don't want you to be I have to do it because Austin's playing Mike or anything like that. And I was oh, okay, yeah, I'll audition. And did a few rounds of auditions with them, and then they ended up giving me the part. And he could not believe it. I remember because I was, I lived in England, he lived in New York. We were doing long distance for a long time. And I think the way I told him, I was saying do you have any, is there any way that you can make some room in your wardrobe for November? And he was what do you mean? And I was oh, because I'm going to come and do Mindy with you in Mike and Mindy's Wild Weekend Jam. And he just went and burst into tears. And then, yeah, so that that began the big long process of trying to get my work visa to go to America and all of that. And that was a long COVID process.
I was going to ask you, so someone that travels between the UK and the US and performs, what is the biggest differences and also the struggles that you faced and you're currently facing?
I think so. I did all my training in the UK, and then I went on the ship. So it was like an American ship. And then after COVID, I moved to America. So I've never actually, other than I did a couple of concerts in like the Southwark Playhouse and that kind of thing in the UK. I've never done like a full contract in the UK, but all of my friends have. So I know like their struggles mostly, and then my side of it over here. I think the biggest difference is like if you were doing a tour in the UK is so much smaller than the US. So if it's not as like, I don't feel like it's as taxing to do like the travel in the UK, because it's still a couple of hours here and there to go to the different theatres and stuff. But our travel days are like sometimes 17 hours long. We do like huge bus journeys into like 2 flights, and it's a whole entire day. So anytime we have a day off, it's a travel day. Sometimes we don't do a show, but it's like, you're on the bus at 6:45 in the morning and you get to the hotel at 10 p.m. and the entire day is trying to get to the next place. And sometimes it's not that far away, which confuses me, because I'm thinking, how have we been on a flight for 4 hours and we're one state across? Like, how is that? How? I don't understand. Yeah, I can fly from New York to Liverpool in sometimes 7 hours, and I've been across the ocean. How are we in the same country? I don't really understand. But yeah, I think like I have always wanted to be, on the West End, and I still do. I still want to go back and work in the UK as well. I'm kind of just trying to build my career a little bit in the US while I've got I've been here for a few years now, and I'm trying to build a bit of momentum and things like that. I think what's hard for me is being I'm not a citizen of the US yet. I have a working performing visa that I'm allowed to do whatever, I'm allowed to do my musical theatre and, on stage performing on my visa, but I'm not like allowed to work in any other field in the US. Unless I got like a green card or that kind of thing. I have, anytime that I'm able to
like get a different kind of job, like a waitress job or anything like that.
No. So I anytime I'm able to earn money, it has to be through stage and performing. So that's a big difference for me. If I was in the UK, I could have like a survival job whilst I'm not performing and that kind of thing. But in the US, it does kind of light a fire underneath me to get out, to get going constantly, because otherwise what am I going to do? I'm going to have to go home if I don't earn any money to, pay my rent kind of thing. So
what's that journey look like? What is a typical day in the life of preparing for your bread and butter?
I'm more so like, I'm trying to be a part of, I've done a lot of like new works at the beginning of being here, and just trying to like network and make contacts with people who are doing any of the shows that I really want to do. I'm going to as many auditions as I can. And, I have a great manager here, Bobby Merritt, her name is, and she's wonderful. So she puts me up for a lot of the shows I really want to do. And it's just kind of keeping things, a lot of different things going at once, and doing auditions. But yeah, it's just a little bit different. I think I could be a little bit more lax if I was in the UK, but it's actually a good thing that it's a good thing that I don't have another option here. If I want to earn money, I have to perform. And it's like, it gets me going, it gets me like motivated to do it, because I have no choice. It's like, that's if that makes sense.
What does it look like to prepare for an audition?
So I typically get an email from my manager, and it'll say, you have an audition for this part in this show. And a lot of the time now they'll say, click this link for your part, and then it'll be like 2 songs from the show and maybe a couple of scenes from the show, and your audition's in a few days. So then you've just got to sit with the material and learn. Sometimes they give you like 3 songs, 3 scenes, and that you're going to be in the room for 5 minutes most of the time, sometimes a little bit longer, and you're never going to get through all of them. But you have to learn them all, because if you go in and you've not learned the one that they ask you to do, then that's not good. So you learn all the scenes, and most of the time you go in and they'll say, okay, great, can you just sing this one of the 3? And you'll sing it, and occasionally they ask you to do a bit more, but then a lot of the time they'll be like, cool, thanks so much, and you kind of just have to be prepared for anything. And a lot of the time you are spent just learning the material, and sometimes you'll never perform it kind of thing. But there's nothing worse than going into an audition and feeling like, oh, please don't ask me to sing that song because I don't know it as well as the others, because they're going to ask you that one, no matter what. Yeah.
Yes.
whichever one you don't want, they're going to be like, oh, this one. And you're like, okay, let's do it, you know? Just a lot of learning, but it's good because you get to learn a lot of material you never would have come across otherwise a lot of the time. But when I did Six, the musical last year, I was a swing. So we had the 6 girls who play the 6 characters, and then myself and one other girl covered all of the like I covered 3 girls and she covered another 3 girls. So I was an offstage swing. So they would do the show, and it was about every 2-3 weeks I would have a scheduled performance as one of the 3 queens that I covered. So it was good with 6 because I knew what date I was going to go on for which queen, other than if somebody was sick, then I would have to be like, oh, I'm going on today. But with 6, it's great because you do have like scheduled performances. So I did get to go on, and I knew that I was going to play each queen at like 6, I think it was 6 or 8 times during the contract. And there was only 1 or 2 times when someone called out really last minute, and then I had to jump in. But I kind of love that adrenaline of, oh God, we don't know who's going to go out, what's going to happen, and then you get thrown in. Part of me loves that. It's just exciting. So that's normally the life of a swing.
Well, let's look at it really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rewinding.
And you can't stop me, 'cause I'm the queen of the castle. Get down, you dirty rascal. Get down.
That's awesome.
I love it.
That is so great. Do you have to practice on some of the plays that you got? Do you have to practice like an American?
Yes.
Tucker?
So
how does that work?
So the only show that I've ever done that I got to do my own accent for was Six, because they always want the queen that you play to be an extension of you as yourself. So I got to do my own accent for those 3 queens. But for any other show I've been in, it's always been an American accent. So it was weirder for me not doing my accent than doing it. But I kind of grew up watching Disney Channel and like all those American shows and those young teens who were performing, because I wanted to do that. So watching Hannah Montana when I was 12, I was like, I'm going to be Hannah Montana. I was like, I'm going to be her. I always wanted to do that. So I listened to an American accent constantly as a kid, watching Friends and watching a lot of American TV. So I kind of have felt like that's the easiest accent for me to go into other than any other, because I'm just so used to listening to it. But I do still, I'll read through at least a couple of times like a scene that's an American accent before I go into a room, obviously, before I go in an audition. But it's like,
how did you learn an American accent?
Sorry?
How'd you learn the American accent?
Honestly, kind of just listening to different television shows and like radio and things like that. But we did have in college, we had a couple of voice lessons where we had like one lesson, which would be general American, where we'd learn the general sounds of, American accent. And then it would be like, a New York accent, but it'd be an hour class. And then we'd move on to another accent the next day. And I'd be like, well, I don't know how to do like, wait, are we meant to know how to do that now? Like all the way through. So I think it's mainly just from, culture and just like hearing the American accent a lot in the things that I consumed, like listened to, watched and trying it really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a part that you auditioned for that you were disappointed that you didn't get?
Sure there is. Well, my first audition ever was for Scaramouche in We'll Rock You on Royal Caribbean, and they sing all the Queen songs, and I love that part. But it was my first audition out of college, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna get it. I'm just gonna do my best and see what happens. And I think that attitude got me further in the audition process than I expected to, because I was kind of less nervous, thinking, well, I'm not gonna get it anyway, so I'm just gonna do all I can and just see what happens. And I got down to the final 2 for the part. And then they were like, oh, you'll hear within 2 weeks if it's a yes. And if you don't hear, then it's a no. So like 5 weeks went by and I was like, okay, well, it's a no then, because I haven't heard anything. But then I got an email out of the blue saying, congratulations, you're going to be Annette in Saturday Night Fever on Liberty of the Seas. And I was like, what? I didn't know that they could do that. I was like, did I audition for Saturday Night Fever? I don't remember. No. But they obviously, I think they liked me for something, but they didn't want to put me in a Scaramouche. So they were like, we'll put her in this. This is what suits her more. And they ended up re-auditioning for Scaramouche, like another round kind of thing. So I was like, oh, I really would have loved to do Scaramouche. But then I found out that I was doing Annette and I was like, oh, okay, it's fine. It's fine. I'll do this. But yeah.
What a great opportunity.
Yeah.
So can you share any challenges that you face in the business in general?
Yeah, it's a hard business to be a part of, especially, you know, these days it's like after COVID, it feels even like there's less jobs to get than there was before. And, you know, there's so many people in this industry who are so talented. It's kind of less of a, are you talented enough these days? It's more like, it feels like preparation meets, you know, opportunity and a bit of luck in the middle. It's kind of like, you have to be in the right place at the right time, and there has to be a part that's just suited to you. And if there's a load of shows on at the moment that you just don't fit, it doesn't mean you're not good enough, you know. And that's hard to remember sometimes if you're not in work for a long period of time. It's like, oh, am I even good enough to be doing this anymore? Like, is this, you know, maybe I should try something else. And a lot of people have those doubts, and it's kind of like sometimes you just have to remember that it sounds like one of those cheesy breakups, but it's actually a lot of the time not you. It's like there's just no place for you in this show that's running right now, even though you want there to be, like, you know. It's just trying to remember that why you're doing it, and that you are good enough to do this. It's just a matter of time till the next thing comes along that you're gonna absolutely love doing, you know. And it's a hard battle sometimes mentally when you're on those days when you haven't got any auditions coming through, and it feels like there's no momentum, and you're kind of stuck waiting. Sometimes you feel like you're in a waiting pattern. It's hard to remember, like, that you can do this and you are good enough to do this, and you have to just like check yourself sometimes, be your own little therapist occasionally. Yeah, those days are hardest, but when you're on the stage,
do you have girlfriends, or I guess our guys, it doesn't really matter. Do you have someone that you can lean on and cry to and kind of, you know?
Yeah, I have some really great, like a handful of really great best friends who are all also in the industry, so they also understand the struggle, and we cry to each other. And I also have like a really good support system with my family. Like, they don't really understand the industry as much, but they're just always like, yay, Bethany, like, you got, you know, they don't know the ins and outs of it, but they'll listen to me talk about it and cry about it and be stressed about it as long as I need to. So I have a really good support system, thank God. Yeah.
Are they in the UK, your family?
Some of them are, yeah. And then I have a really great best friend here, and then I met some of my best friends on Six, and they all are American, and most of them live in New York. So we know that we always have each other's back, and we can always call or just get the train to their apartment and we'll be fine. Like, they will always be there for us. That's one of the reasons I'm so grateful for that show as well, because I met like my best girlfriends, like as adults, you know, and I feel like that's kind of rare. So yeah, I have some great,
That is great. That's great. How do you have like a person, whether you want one or not, how do you have a personal life being on the road, and how does that happen?
It's hard. It's kind of hard. When you're on a tour or on a cruise even, you are in this bubble where these are the people that you are with for this amount of time, and you know that if you don't get on with them, it's going to be probably an issue, because these are like your little village of human beings for 9 months, and you kind of, it feels like a lot of the time you only have each other, which you don't. You know, you do still have the people outside, but these are the people you in a hotel with every night, you go into the show with, you're on the bus with, a lot of the time you're sharing a hotel room with, you're constantly around people. And I found that in the first couple of months of this contract, I didn't keep in contact as much as I really wanted to with the outside world, like my family and my good friends, like outside of the tour. I kind of got swept up in, oh, well, this is like my life right now. And that, I found that like after Christmas, after going home for Christmas and being with my family, I was like, oh no, this is grounding. This makes me feel peaceful and calm. This is what I need to keep hold of when I'm on the road, because these tours are crazy. The schedule is insane, and like you're just popping left, right, and center, and really long days, and you can lose the sense of grounding and calm and like yourself sometimes in those situations. So I found the best way for me to have a personal life is to make sure that I do keep that FaceTime date with my best friend, and I do call my family, and I do keep in contact with everyone outside, because they are my people, and these are my great people, you know, kind of, you know, we'll have some great friends to take away, but these are my, like, for now, this is my for now life. And then, but I still have my other life. You know what I mean? That keeps me sane.
Yeah. Yes, that totally makes sense. Have you ever been like either shared a hotel room with somebody that you didn't get along with, and you're like, this is the longest season ever that I have to put up with this person?
Not yet. Please don't.
Oh, good.
Thank God. I've only shared a room with a couple of the girls. And it's been great. It's been actually really fun because you go back from the craziness of the show and then you have one person and you can like debrief the day with. And it's lovely. But I really hope that doesn't happen because that's going to be awful. let's hope
my God, that's great. Yeah. Now, your performance often involves a combination of like acting, dancing, singing. That's a lot to memorize. How do you balance it all?
I honestly think I'm quite lucky because when I was in school, I was in this quite strict, very academic, private school. And it was the exact opposite of what I do now, it feels like. But we had like tests every day in like every class, and I had to remember so much stuff all the time. And I think because of that, I have quite a good like memory and I can pick things up. You know, I'll read something a few times and I'll be able to go and do an audition or perform it or do a self-tape, that kind of thing. So I have quite a good memory, thank God. I don't know what I would have done if I didn't.
Right.
Yeah, it helps enjoying the thing that you're trying to remember as well. If you love the song, you're going to be singing it in the shower anyway. So that'll help you remember it, you know. I think I'm just kind of lucky with the memory I have, and I hope it stays this way, stays intact.
Is there any like specific ritual or routine that you do?
I a lot of the time I voice record, like I did for this show. I understudy Vivian Ward, the lead girl in Pretty Woman. I'm in the ensemble, then I understudy her, and she has so many lines. It's most of the show is her talking, her singing.
Right.
So I voice recorded myself saying all the scenes, and then I would just play it when I'm getting ready, doing my makeup and things. And I would say her lines along with, you know, those lines, and then let him say his lines. And it would be like instead of listening to music, I listened to the script. And, you know, if it takes me half an hour to do my makeup, I'll do the first half of the show, do my makeup that day. And the next day I'll do the second half. And I find hearing things is how I learn things rather than reading it. If I hear it enough, it's like a song, it'll go in. That helps a lot. Yeah.
Wow. How did you learn that technique? That's neat.
I think one of my friends told me that they used to do it. And then there's also an app. This is an app where you can speak your lines. You can speak. So say if there's like person one is the guy, person two is me. I can like record person one, and then I can record person two, and I'll go between. And then I can press play on just person one. So his line will play, and then there'll be a gap. And then I'll say my line, and then his line will automatically play next. And it's as if you're reading lines with somebody, but you know, you don't need somebody else for help.
So speaking of Pretty Woman, let's watch this reel.
Okay.
Pull this up here.
But I never sold myself. Learned I don't need anyone. It's me who's in control. They can take away my innocence, but they can't erase my pride. I've seen a better life. I've seen the other side.
What a beautiful voice.
Thank you. Thanks.
My goodness. So that's what you're currently doing right now? You're on tour for Pretty Woman?
So that's the Vivian part. So I got to go on for the first time in January. We had like a 2-show day, and the lead girl, Ellie, she did the first show, and she was a bit vocally tired from doing, you know, a million shows. So she called out of the second show, and my company manager came to me and she was like, well, so Ellie's out of the second show, so we're going to do a debut. And I was like, okay. Like I'd just been learning it myself, the whole audition process, and had a one session with our musical director and sang through the songs, but that was basically it. And it was kind of like, good luck. And I was like, okay. I had 3 hours, and then it was, you're on at 8:00. And I was like, okay, this is fine. It's going to be fine. And it went well. Thank God.
That's
amazing. That's normally what happens with a swing or an understudy. There's usually never any scheduled shows. It's kind of like, she's ill, you're on, you know, and it's scary, but it's also so much fun when you actually get to go on and do those parts. Oh my gosh.
Well, the adrenaline rush that you get.
Yes. I don't remember the entire time I did the show. I came off and I was like, did it go well? I don't know what just happened. Did anyone see that? Oh my God. It was scary.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad someone recorded it.
Oh, me too. Yeah. One of our swings helped me, and she recorded it so that I could watch it afterwards and go, okay, I survived, and it went well. Let's say. Yeah. Thank God.
That is great.
Scary.
So what are you currently doing right now, Bethany?
So I'm on the Pretty Woman tour until May 19th. So I am in the ensemble. So I have I do a lot of dancing and a lot of the ensemble parts. I have a few lines here and there. And then when Ellie is not well or anything like that, I would jump in and do the Vivian role. And we've been on the road since we started rehearsals August 31st and we opened October 2nd. And we're on the road till May 19th. So yeah, I'm bopping around the US at the moment. Where am I right now is a great question. I'm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. South Dakota is, I think.
Dakota?
Yes, I think so. I'm trying to learn US geography, but it's not going too well. Most of the time I get to the airport and I'm like, they say, where are you going? And I'm like, I don't know. And I just look at my friends. I'm like, where are we going? I don't know.
I'm just going now. Just
I'm like, wherever the group is written down to go, I'm also going there. Thank you. That's usually what happens. But yeah, I'm doing this till May 19th, and then I'm back to New York to audition and start the process again. Go again. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, at the end of the broadcast, I always ask my guests to leave with words of wisdom. So what kind of words of wisdom do you have that you would like to share?
I always say, this is something that sounds very cheesy, but it's kind of been my little motto so far, is follow your gut no matter what anyone else around you is doing. If you don't feel like that's your path, don't go that way. Like everyone around me in training in England did a very different path than I did. I ended up going to different theatre schools because it didn't feel right at the time. And I kept going until it felt right. And then that kickstarted me into this journey. And that was like saying yes to this next opportunity was the reason that the next one came along. And it just feels like I've always followed that little voice inside me that feels like, even if it's not what everyone else is doing, and even if it's against all the advice that my friends are telling me, if it feels right, just do it, because all you've got is your intuition. And later on you could think, oh, maybe I should have gone a different way, but you always know that at the time you made the right choice for you. And that's the only thing that you can kind of rely on. You can't regret that. You can't regret making the right choice for you at the time, because that's all you knew. So really, I would just say, always listen to your intuition and always follow your gut. And, don't be crazy about it, but just have belief in yourself and you can do anything. That's kind of what I've always been taught by my family. And I try to follow that every day. Yeah.
Love it. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so
Thank
much
you so
fun.
much for, it was a lot of fun. All right.
Thank you, Michelle.
You take care.
You too.
Okay,
See you
bye-bye.
soon.
That's a wrap, everyone. Great